Hello. Um, so I am I guess I have to just be really honest. I am low-key embarrassed that I did not realize like my post-its are like in the screen behind me. But yeah, this is my little a creative room. So it is what it is. I'm done painting back there. Yeah, but anyway, so let's get to the point. I'm doing the read with me again. We're reading The Vein of Gold, A Journey to Your Creative Heart by Julia Cameron. I don't have my a microphone set up today because I am a last minute person and my book club meeting is actually tomorrow and my iPad's about to die. So it just kind of is what it is. If for any reason you can't hear this and you happen to like pop in and be watching, just let me know and I can plug in my microphone and I'll just charge my iPad later. Um, so we're starting off where I left off abruptly last time on page 77 in the Kingdom of Stories in the part called Words Do It. So I'm going to start off like at the bottom of page 76 so it makes sense though. Creativity is a spiritual essence that can operate in any and all areas of life. The law can be creative and so can the kitchen. When we allow ourselves to bring our full attention to any circumstance, we bring to it the possibility of creative spark. It is one of the ironies of my work that very often the phrases used to shame children actually single out for ridicule the very finest parts of their creative DNA. If Michael Hope had not been a dreamer, could he have written his yearning romances? No. We are lucky that Hope's dreamer survived. Gifted in ways that our parents or teachers find threatening or disruptive, many of us have been called dreamers and other things as well. Often the negative words used to describe us were actually attempts to harness our behavior into the service of parental goals. Don't be sure a dreamer can clean your room. Don't be so loud. Stop singing and let me watch TV. Don't be so sure of yourself. Let me tell you who you are. Not all of this controlling was undertaken with malice or forethought. In all probability, very little of it was. Nonetheless, it is worth trekking back to our youth to discover some of the phrases used to make us more cooperative with other people's agendas. It is also worth noting that silence can speak volumes and that the withholding of praise or comment for our gifts or creative efforts is also a potent tool of control. Kathleen, a gifted textiles designer, now in creative recovery, remembers that in her childhood, her play with fabric was received not with delight or encouragement, but with icy silence. Justin, a writer who is now coming into his substantial gifts, remembers that in his childhood, his writing was harshly criticized and often completely rewritten by his father. Once, when he was assigned write a poem write a poem, his father wrote one for him and insisted that his poem be turned into his son's work, since his son wasn't much of a writer. Is it any wonder that both Kathleen and Justin had difficulty knowing and owning the extent of their talents? Silence had been used to disenfranchise one of them. Language itself was used to steal language from the other. Both of them grew up disbelieving their talents because to their parents, those talents had not been real. As youngsters, when we are judged by outside authority, we often take that judgment into ourselves. The choir teacher who makes fun of a quivering adolescent voice may cause a singer to lose that voice. The college professor who tells his students, "Your job is to convince me you're brilliant, not to express yourself," may rob his students of their right to self expression. Even as an adult, The threatened spouse who says, "You really think anybody's going to buy one of those things?" Paintings, sculptures, handmade aprons, photographs may steal from his or her partner the will to continue making art. In shamanic tradition, the loss of these parts of ourselves is called soul loss. Any severe artistic shaming is sufficient to cause such a self displacement, and the results can be catastrophic in terms of both identity and productivity. Our gift for design, our gift for for poetry, some part of us is judged and then disowned. This disowned gift goes underground. Yes, it would be lovely if we were resilient enough to shrug these shamings off, but we often can't. Since the creative part of us is always childlike, no matter what our chronological age, we have no sophisticated defenses that are proof against volleys of disparagement. The very vulnerability and openness that makes us creative makes us able to be wounded, hurt, and misled. This is why these epithets must be made conscious. They must be dragged into the light of reason and dismantled like rifles, lest we turn them on ourselves. Please bear with the work of this essay. However painful you may find it, resistance to cleaning a wound is understandable, but cleaning a wound is a necessary part of healing it. At best, the controlling descriptions issued to us as children are opinions. At worst, they are character assassination. Get your head out of the clouds. You'll never amount to anything, because these negatives were often instilled in us before we were old enough to see through them or to question the authority from which they came. We may still accept these shaming dictums as fact. As adults, we may have learned the knack of considering the source, but that knack is not common among children. For our creative child and of these creative monsters is sufficient to any one of these creative monsters is sufficient to trigger shame, and shame automatically triggers soul loss. Scolded, discounted, ridiculed, ashamed, the singer or writer or painter goes underground, and this is often only a part of the damage done. As the Celtic shaman Caitlin Matthews writes, one of the problematic aspects of soul loss is that when human beings lose a vital part of themselves, they resort to substitutes to fill the gap. This often leads to addictions. In lieu of creativity, we may fill our lives instead with alcohol, drugs, or food, with busyness or things, or addictive relationships in order to medicate the sense of loss we feel over the straying of our creative gifts and dreams. We use all of these to block our sense of loss, to block our awareness. There has been a loss. The shaming words remain lodged in our consciousness, while the gifts they negate remain locked beyond our reach. Am I really a bossy B star? Wonders my friend Alice, who is not. Am I really a sissy? Wonders my friend John, who is not. No matter that Alice is an effervescent and generous woman who is a delight to be around, full of playful ideas. Whenever she gets scared, she hears her milquetoast ex-husband, who is passive except with his wounding words. No matter that John is a solid and loving man who might better be characterized as a man's man than a sissy. He was a bookish boy, and when he is under siege emotionally, the words he hears are those of his military father. Get out of your room. Get out on the ball field. What are you? Some kind of sissy? Most of these assessments have never been reevaluated in light of our own values and beliefs because they were used to shame us. We, ashamed, keep them hidden from ourselves and from the world. It often takes the glare of success to cast them into horrifying visibility, into the void of self worth. We insert the words we've been taught to use for ourselves. Our emotional or intellectual Achilles heels starts to throb as the old wound acts up again. In working with the narratives timelines of many students, I've discovered that most creative people carry litanies of self abuse, descriptions that were used for them, or more accurately against them in childhood. It is astonishing the number of words, phrases, and actual insults used to tamp down our creativity. When I teach a creativity workshop, one of my favorite and most cathartic exercises is having the class call out the words used to control them as children. Often we come up with a list of derogative words numbering nearly 100. Let me give you a few choice epithets here. Dreamer, Dilettante. Wow, it's been a while since as I grew up there's like a brand new word. Hey Google, what is the definition of the word Dilettante?
On the website merriam-webster.com, they say, a person having a superficial interest in an art or a branch of knowledge, dabbler.
Okay, so a person having a superficial interest in an art or a dabbler. Okay, that I have felt that before. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Head in the clouds, impractical, irresponsible, crazy, lazy, weird, flake, eccentric, too sensitive, too intense, unrealistic, childish, wishful thinker, grandiose, arrogant, selfish, foolish, silly, stuck up, deluded, out of your mind, obsessed, procrastinator, dilly dallier, conceited, not feminine enough, not masculine enough, not American, not focused, not disciplined, not in reality. You may have a dozen other words that have been hurled at you. Please note that they are often contradictory. You may simultaneously stand accused of being too much of one thing and not enough of another, unexpressed, unacknowledged, unesteemed. Our disowned gifts become shadow versions of themselves. Our good points become our bad points. Whatever it is that you were or are, it's wrong. You're wrong. Wait a minute. Maybe they're wrong. Task, alchemy, converting dross to gold. Many of us are plagued by the words used to describe us as children. Many of us fail to realize that these words are often the ore that we can alchemize into nuggets of gold. Go back through your narrative timeline and look for any damaging or daunting words. Let's look at you and your childhood epithets differently. In mystical tradition, alchemy was the process by which grosser metals had their vibration lifted until they were transformed into gold. This lifting process was a closely guarded secret. Magic words and secret ingredients were involved. As a result of your work with this essay, we've got them. We will use alchemical techniques to convert your childhood wound words into gold. All we will need is the words themselves and the power of your imagination, then a pinch of compassion as the conversion catalyst. In other words, you are asked to look at your past and transform it through acceptance. Claim the word wounds and work with them. While this may sound like you are being asked for sainthood, it is actually a very pragmatic piece of personal house cleaning. In this exercise, you are asked to take 10 childhood negatives and look at them closely, searching for the silver lining that will turn them into gold. Very often, the things described to you as your weakness are the strengths which will serve you well in your creative endeavors. Use imagination and compassion to make the transformation. Here are a few examples. Dilettante converts to interested in many things. Dreamer converts to powerful imaginative. Impractical converts to visionary thinker. Eccentric converts to original. Okay, the next task. Post your golden words where you can see them. There are several ways to do this task, all equally valid. Some of you may wish to cull and clip your words from magazines. Some of you may wish to use the fancier prints fonts on your computers. Others might want to buy some good rough paper and felt-tipped calligraphy pens. Whatever you choose to use, take each of your newly converted words and make a post-it version of the word. You may wish to make several of each. Decorate that post-it, gild it, glitter it, illustrate it, illuminate it. Above all, consecrate it. You are the new word, not the old. Original, passionate, exciting, imaginative, festive, humorous, generous, adventurous. Post these descriptions of yourself on mirrors, above workstations, inside your closet, or on the door so that you see them every time you leave the house, allowing you to carry a positive sense of yourself into the world. Additionally, you may wish to record these words so that you can play them to yourself as you drive. Try recording them in the first, second, and third person. I, Tom, am inventive, screwed, focused. You, Tom, are inventive, screwed, focused. Tom, he is inventive, shrewd, focused. I probably should wear my glasses, my bad. You might want to keep the full list of them next to your bed so that you can read them to yourself before sleeping or use them as your morning wake-up call. Task. Kill a creative monster. All of us have creative monsters. Our monsters shamed us around our creative personalities and work because the part of us that creates is an inner child, a playful, sensitive, and vulnerable creative. A creative monster is a real ogre. Ogres are, of course, belong in fairy tales, and that is where we are going to put them. In order to do this task, you must go back into your narrative timeline, select the creative monster, and lop off its head. The death need not be literal. Sometimes a punishment seems even more delicious. I'm thinking now of a fairy tale written by one of my students to deal with a former teacher called the Grammar Monster. No matter how brilliantly the student wrote, and she did write brilliantly, all the teacher could ever find to comment were fine points of grammar. Some of them so fine you would need a microscope to discover them. With grammar like yours, you will never be a real writer, roared the Grammar Monster. She was wrong. Nonetheless, her remarks were destructive and lingered like thorns in the confidence of the victim, who had, as it happened, very fine grammar indeed. Enter the fairy tale. For a detailed example of one, sneak peek ahead to the next task and read The Wizard of Words. Did my student kill the Grammar Monster? Death at the stake? No, she did something much more satisfactory. Death by mistake. With the simple stroke of her pen, she struck the Grammar Monster alive and well and incapable of speaking grammatically. Every time the Grammar Monster spoke or wrote, it came out grammatically wrong. Destined to live a long and miserable life while dying of embarrassment, the Grammar Monster was finally expunged, expelled, and exiled from my students' consciousness. That is what fairy tales do. I have often been criticized for devising this tool, so I hope you have an excellent time using it. I have been told that this tool is simply too bloody-minded, and that it makes us really rotten people to use it. I don't believe that. I believe that negative memories hold enormous amounts of power, power that is rightfully ours. It is the purpose of this exercise to reclaim that power. Try it and you will find that you do. Select a creative monster and mete out a terrible fate. Task: celebrate a creative champion. All of us need creative champions. Our champions encourage and support our personalities and work. Some of us are lucky enough to have had real champions. Sister Julia Claire taught me to believe in myself as a writer. Others of us have found such support hard to come by. All of us can always use more. And creating more is what you are about to do. Using the same fairy tale mindset that you employed in the task above, please create yourself a creative champion. Yours might be like Merlin or perhaps the Lady of the Lake. It might be a fairy godmother or a masterful magician. Create the figure that appeals to your own imagination. Now write a brief story in which your creative child seeks and receives the figure's creative blessing. For example, The Wizard of Words. I am a small child who wants to be a writer. I have written the story down and I have it with me, scrolled up in a roll. I know that not far from my house, in a tall magical wood, there lives a powerful word wizard, whose words can create miracles and wonders. With the blessing of this wizard, my words can do the same. Although everyone warns me that the woods are dark and scary, I set off to find the wizard. That's how much I want to be a writer. I walk and I walk. Morning comes and goes, afternoon comes and goes, twilight descends, and I begin to grow apprehensive. Just as it begins to grow dark, I see ahead of me a glowing golden square set in the forest floor. When I reach that square, I see that it is actually a glass door, and through it I can see a tunnel. The tunnel is lit by torches. It could be salvation, or it could be a trap. I open the door and enter the tunnel. I know I might meet a dragon, but then again, I might meet the Wizard of Words. By the flickering light of the torches, I walk for a very long time. The tunnel leads deeper and deeper into the earth. I clutch my scroll of words close to my side. It is the best story I have ever written. At least it's the one I wrote that day, and I am hoping it will win the wizard's blessing. Finally, the tunnel ends in a large round cave. The walls are covered in wine-colored leather, and they are lined with books in many languages. Where I wonder is the Wizard of Words? In the center of the room, I notice a tall mirror. Maybe he is hiding in the mirror. I think wizards frequently do that. Cautious but determined, I look in the mirror. Yes, a wizard is there. Show me your manuscript, the wizard directs. Reaching out with a jewel-encrusted sword, I unroll my story and allow him to read it. Touching each word with the tip of his sword, to my astonishment, every time he touches a word, a vibrant jewel falls to the floor of the cave. Do you want your treasure? I ask the wizard when he has finished reading and a heap of jewels lies on the floor by my feet. Foolish child, the wizard roars, the treasure is yours. Such is the value of your words. With that, the wizard vanishes, and I find myself staring back at me from the mirror. True, I do look a little like a wizard. Also, true, the jewels still lie scattered at my feet, waiting for me to claim them. I stuff the jewels into my pockets and carefully place my story under my shirt, next to my heart. It is far more valuable than I had realized. Newly rich, I retrace my steps through the tunnel, open the sealed glass door, and climb into the forest clearing, where I find a crowd of villagers awaiting me. Who goes there? They shout. It is I announce, the Wizard of Words. Oh, I like that story so much. Okay, so that was the end of that section. I'm going to go back and read all of the, what are they called? All of the quotes that are on the side of the book. I've always felt the hunter was an image of the artist. The artist is a hunter and God is a hunter. Hunting is us. We are always being looked at by God, by the hunter. In my studio, I am the eye of the hunter. Maynard Craighead. A Bushman child will be carried a distance of 49,000 miles before he begins to walk on his own, since during this rhythmic phase, he will be forever naming the contents of his territory. It is impossible he will not become a poet. Bruce Chatwin. The mystics believe the ideal man shall walk himself to a right death. Bruce Chatwin. What the people of the city do not realize is that the roots of all living things are tied together. Chonkin Viejo. Quoted by Joan Haleyitz. Most contemporary therapists who work in depth with their patients know that behind the rigid, top-heavy posture of most contemporary men is a little child with years of stored up tears and fears. Stephen Larson. This then is salvation, when we marvel at the beauty of created things and praise their beautiful creator. Meister Eckhart. The challenge then is to be the creative myth maker that we are, to consciously choose our myth, lest it be chosen for us by the collective mind. Mary Elizabeth Marlowe. The art just wants to be made. It pushes through the vehicle, the person, into manifest form. Vicky Noble. Openness, patience, receptivity, solitude is everything. Rainer Maria Rilke. Originality has nothing to do with priority. An image is like a musical key. Just because someone used G minor before doesn't make Mozart a copycat. Stephen Mitchell. Soul loss is regarded as the gravest diagnosis in shamanism, being seen as a cause of illness and death, yet it is not referred to at all in modern Western medical books. Jean Achterberg. The soul among all creatures is generative like God is. Meister Eckhart. The power of the word is real, whether or not you are conscious of it. Sonia Choquette. We must use the power of words constructively. Stella Terrell Mann. It doesn't have to be a big fire or a small blaze. Candlelight, perhaps. Ray Bradbury. The structure of myth exists in the mind and needs only to be tapped. Dina Metzger. Learning is movement from moment to moment. Krishnamurti. Apparently, sound is a kind of food for the brain and the whole body. Joy Garden Gordon. Our skin is what stands between us and the world. Diane Ackerman. Great writing can be conjured from great injustice. Lance Morrow. Behind every word flows energy. Sonia Choquette. I like that one a lot. Over and over, we have to go back to the beginning. We should not be ashamed of this. It is good. It's like drinking water. Natalie Goldberg. Your own words are the bricks and mortar of the dreams you want to realize. Your words are the greatest power you have. The words you choose and use establish the life you experience. Sonia Choquette. Okay, so that was the end of the section, Words Do It. Yeah, I liked this section a lot more for some reason. I feel like it had like a lot of activities. Or very much like write your own story, like you create your destiny, kind of like magical kinds of themes, and that kind of stuff really excites me. It makes me feel powerful. It's one of the reasons why I love being a creative. So I'm super excited to do some of the activities here. And I guess I will say bye for now.